you have to understand the metaphysical reality of your world. Because if you understand the metaphysical reality of your world really well, and you understand how that cascades into the cultures and the morality and everything about, and the religions and everything about that structure. Because remember, like, a religion is more than just what it worships.
Mm-hmm.
A religion is more than its focal points. A religion is the practices that it worships, the hierarchy of the religion,
The moral compasses.
the moral compass that it espouses, the view that it has towards, the rest of society, and so on.
Releasing your inner dragon. All right, Marie. The other day, you mentioned a word to me that I have no idea how it fits into anything, but you said metaphysics. And you were going to go into it because we were offline. You were like, well, let me explain. I'm like, you know what? No, I don't want you to explain it to me. I want to wait until we get together to record the next podcast. And then I'll just ask you about it. And we can just, I have no idea where this conversation is going to go because I honestly don't know what this topic is about. But what do you mean?
All right, so let's start with this. Do you know what metaphysics is? Like, in
I
a
mean,
broad sense.
yeah.
It's the study of what, it's the theoretical conceptualization by philosophers of why things exist,
Right.
right? And what those things are. In a way, like religions are a kind of
Mm-hmm.
metaphysical discussion, like God, and so on. And we'll get there in a second. But first, I want to take a long step back, and I want to tell you something about our reality, this universe that we currently inhabit. I want you to follow me down a little rabbit hole. All right. So let's start with this. Okay. What if the computational quantum mechanics, the fact that the wave function collapses and it's probabilistic, right? So what happens is the wave function collapses and then reality kind of appears in quantum, right? At a very loose, high level. What if that is because we are in a game? And that probabilistic function is to save computation time by the devs. So it only renders when we look at it.
Mm-hmm. And that's
Okay.
actually very common in, I can't remember what it's called, but in 3D games, single player 3D games,
Yeah.
it only renders what's in front of you and everything else is not rendered. But as you
Yeah.
turn, this goes away and this becomes reality.
Exactly. All right. So what if the quantum reality is that? Right? What if that is quantum? Okay. Wait, I'm not done. Um, what if quantum entanglement, which allows two quantum particles which are very far apart to break light speed, what if that is to provide network optimization to allow for communication between the game nodes?
Mm-hmm.
And what if quantum foam, which is the smallest particle we can perceive, is basically the equivalent of this game's pixelation? All right. What if the speed of light constant? You can't go faster than the speed of light. What if that is to prevent us from going back in time and creating a computational loop? Okay? What if Planck length is the minimum time unit of the game? That's its computational cycle.
Yeah, that's one
What
cycle,
if
like an 8-bit or a 16-bit or a 32-bit.
yeah, what if the vast empty space of space itself, like the vast emptiness, what if
Which
that
they
is
have
to
no idea what's
save
in it.
on computational time,
Yeah.
right? Because it's empty rendering. Um, and it also explains the Fermi paradox. Where are all the aliens? The game's got built-in limits in it to
Yeah.
prevent civilizations encountering each other. Okay, so there's a whole lot of speculation around this, all right? So my point with this is not that I believe we're in a game development, because whether we are or not, I don't care, right? It doesn't impact my life. But my point is that there is evidence that you can argue around that says we might be in a game, we might be NPCs in a game, or we might be pixels in a game, or we might be in a simulation. And all of these things is kind of physical evidence thereof. All right. Now, um, in a fantasy world, you are creating a extraordinary physical reality. You are creating metaphysical realities, right? So you are putting in place gods. All right, let's take that one because that's the big one, but there's also magic. We'll get to that. So you're putting in place gods. These gods are, if you're making them real, are real. They have real effects. They have real agendas. You know, there's that. There's a belief in some Christian sects that say God's law is written on your heart. Right? You're born knowing the law. If that were true, what would that world look like? Because everybody would then have a moral code that you're either choosing to follow or not choosing to follow. It would have a dramatic impact on the physical reality of the people living in that world. We have in our world a plethora of religions, right? Because there is not a definitive, in our world, there's not a definitive proof for any given religion, because all of them are basically metaphysical viewpoints, right? Even atheism, like, you know, I'm not playing favorites here.
You can't even prove atheism.
No, you can't prove any of it because it's none of it's falsifiable. You can't say I can disprove it using this, and therefore you cannot prove it. Okay. Now, now that might not be the case in a fantasy world. And the dramatic impact that that has on the people who think about metaphysical realities, and then from people who think about metaphysical realities comes the concepts that drive into cultures, that drive into morality, that create your entire society.
Yeah.
Right? So the reason why metaphysics matters to the fantasy world builder is it's a time saver. If you understand the metaphysical reality of your world, if you understand what it is and how it affects the way people think, then you understand, then you don't have to build exact cultures. You don't have to build exact moral codes. You just have to go, okay, I'm in this situation. This is the metaphysical reality of my world. What is the natural consequence? And it changes everything about your world. And you apply that to magic, you apply that to gods, you apply that to anything that has a metaphysical reality.
Yeah, this whole thing is the reason why in Fiend Folly, my Dick and Fart joke cartoon, that who knows if it'll ever actually get produced, but that's the reason why the one true religion or the one big religion in that world is the Church of Atheism, that doesn't believe gods are real. And the argument against that is, yeah, but Thor's like literally sitting over there at that cafe drinking a beer. Like we could go talk to him. Like, nope, he's not real. but he's literally right there. Like, so that's why I did that, because it was just a fun thing to flip that on its head of, you know, because you're right. Religions, that's where faith comes from. You have to have faith that whatever religion that you practice, whether it's atheism or, you know, the plethora of other religions, you have to have faith that you're right. You don't know that you're right. You just believe that you're right. Yeah. And so in a world where gods are real, you can literally sit down and have a beer with them. What does that do to religion?
Exactly. But it's more fun. So I'll take you through my example of Sangwheel. All right. In Sangwheel, I have 3 omnipotent divine entities. All right. They are provably real because you can draw on their power. Okay. So your choices are either worship them or don't worship them. Right. But there is no space in that provable reality for lesser gods. And that's what I mean. So in Sangwheel, there are religions that deviate from each other, like sects, but they all worship the 3 gods, all of them, because they are provable entities.
See, that's the exact reason why I did the same thing in Genesis.
Yeah,
Everybody worships the 12 gods of man.
yeah,
And even though technically they are now faith based, there's enough stories of them actually walking the earth and actually doing things. And there's enough evidence that they were around at one point
mm,
that no one has just created a new religion, because it's really hard to disprove that these 12 entities didn't at one time exist. There's a lot of speculation on why they're not here. Are they dead? Have they gone somewhere else? Have they, are they watching us from above? And that's where I separate the different religions as far as, how they believe in different things. But there isn't a single culture on Talik Na that doesn't believe in the 12 gods of man, because there's just too much proof that they actually at one time existed. And so, yeah.
And that's kind of my point. Now, I went all the way to why do my 12, why do my three gods have this metaphysical reality?
Mm-hmm.
What are they actually? Why did they create this universe and the whole thing, right? And so you can go, if you go all the way to there, then it like for me, it helps my world building enormously, because it helps
Mm-hmm.
me settle the setup of the cultures. One of our peanut galleries said, but doesn't adding provable gods remove the concept of faith in its entirety? Because now you don't have to believe in something you can't prove or disprove. And yes, that is sort of true. But there is, where you have provable gods, you have a distinction between I choose to worship or I choose not to worship, right?
Well, and there's
So,
also a sliding scale here.
yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So first, there is a sliding scale, in terms of proof. Like my gods don't speak, so there's just these powerful entities that you can draw power from with prayers. Now, that is proof in a lot of people's minds, but not everybody, right? Some
Yeah,
people are
because
just
I
like, this
guarantee you
is the
there should
source
be
of
somebody
magic.
out there. Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody out there should be thinking, but what if they're just three different battery pools, that
Yes.
they're not actual not
But
omnipotent,
they're not conscious
deities.
beings. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I
And
mean, and
then
that argument is made.
right. And then in my world, they haven't been around for 1500 years, or at least
Yeah.
that anybody knows. So that's a long time to allow for doubt to creep in. And then, one of the other
Yeah.
peanut galleries said, yeah, but it's pretty provable that you can prove that our planet is round. And yet here in 2025, there are people who do not believe it's round. They believe it's flat.
Yeah. Yeah, there
So,
are.
and what you believe is what you believe. We're not dogging on you. You can believe whatever you want. But that's the thing. And that's just the decision on, once you've figured all this stuff out, once you've decided what is reality, reality
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the world follows it. Reality just means this is the reality of the world. And
Yes.
then you can have all sorts of wiggle room for, I mean, even like you said, you can't have, with your three all powerful gods, you can't have, there's no space for demigods. But I actually disagree with that. And again, I know your magic
No,
system, so it wouldn't
there's
work.
not no space for demigods. I said there's no space for like full-blown religions beside them, because
Oh, okay.
there's too much of them,
Okay. I thought you had
you
said
know.
something about demigods, because you could have
Yeah.
somebody, even though I know your magic system and I know that you
Mm.
couldn't really have a fourth like little child of Zeus that's actually half god, half human, or something like that. You could have somebody rise to power that became so powerful. And again, not with your magic system, but with a
So
magic system kind of like yours.
yeah, I do
And then they just
absolutely have
call
like,
themselves a god.
yeah. So I mean, I do have spirits, and I have animalistic spirits, and I have animism, and all of those kinds of attributes in the world. But people don't worship those because they don't. There's too much God to worship lesser spirits
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
Um, and the Peanut Gallery says choosing not to worship doesn't change that they're there. That's like saying I don't worship the king. He's still the king. I just don't pay him homage. But
Yeah.
yes, but the point of a religion is not necessarily about whether you believe or not. You can disbelieve the central point of a religion and still follow its tenets.
Mm-hmm.
You can be an atheist who's living in a country, and follow that country's religious tenets without. I mean, atheists did that a lot in
Right.
times and places where it's illegal to be
Yeah.
an unbeliever.
But it's also why when somebody in the past has asked me, yeah, but if you could make a deal with the devil to get this,
Mm.
would you? I'm like, no. Because if the devil showed up in front of me and said, I will give you this for this, then that would mean that all of religion is real and I would have proof. So no, I would not make a deal with the devil because that means it's real. No, I would not.
Yeah,
I would become the most pious individual on the planet.
but but yeah, I mean exactly. But it also goes into like what are the metaphysics of your cultures think about
Mm-hmm.
magic. All right. So think about magic for a second. Think about the impact that it has.
Mm-hmm.
An individual person with magic can potentially, depending on the magic system, but can change the course of history. All right. It is, and it's not like with us, we have myths of Heracles or, the Buddha, like myths of people doing these things. But the
Right.
reality is, if say Julius Caesar had never existed, that doesn't mean the Roman Republic wouldn't have become the Roman Empire. It would still have become the Roman Empire. The weight of history was too much. There would have been someone else who stood in the center point of that change and kind of drove that change into their vision and their shape. It would have had a different vision and a different shape, but it would still have happened
Yeah.
because,
Yeah. That's like, if you could go back in time and kill baby Hitler, would you? And it's like, why? Because there would
yeah,
just be someone else, maybe not in Germany, maybe in a different country, maybe whatever. But, you
yeah.
know, history would evil
They,
people rise to power.
and it would probably still have been Germany due to the pressures of the first. Anyway, long story,
Right.
different
Exactly.
different conversations. But the point is that that whole process of like somebody would have risen at that
Right.
point, and would likely have pulled on many of the same levers because they were
Mm-hmm.
there to pull on,
Yep.
and would have resulted in the same things because it has too much weight to it,
Yeah.
right? But if a Superman could come and fix all of Germany's problems, right? How does that change the way that culture looks at people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what does that change about the approach that people take to each other and to history and to they look at magic, and one person can make this huge impact on the world. One person. Does that not completely and entirely lean into a kind of a creation of patron-client relationships where everybody wants to be the magician's friend? And,
Or
and why?
kill the magician.
Yes, but you would probably have more who want to be
Oh,
friends
certainly.
with the magician.
Certainly. I'm just saying that you're gonna
Yeah,
don't leave out that, because I mean the
yeah,
whole BVS, the whole Batman versus Superman
yeah,
trope is designed off of Batman is like, he's not trying to kill Superman because Superman's done something evil. He's trying to kill Superman because if Superman decides to do something evil, there'll be no stopping him.
mm,
And so it's a complete precautionary kill as far as he's concerned. He has
yeah,
no reason for doing it other than, if we don't do it now, we won't be able to do it later. So yeah, but we've talked about this a lot. Like we were talking about this just, I don't remember how many podcasts ago, we were talking about like the superhero thing where my friend has that superhero series wearing the cape that um to become a superhero, you have to do something that almost kills you. Really, it does kill you. It's just a superpower kicks in and saves your life. And so in that world, suicide, and it's not really I'm going to kill myself because I'm depressed or I hate life or whatever,
yeah,
but suicide is through the roof because they're trying to be more than what they are. They're trying to become super, but it only unlocks in a few people anyway. So most people who try and put themselves into moral danger to unlock their superhero power just kill themselves. They don't actually. And so that's the whole metaphysics of that world. And that's going to change.
Yeah.
That's going to change the culture. It's going to change everything about it.
Yes. And that's why I say, like, you have to understand the metaphysical reality of your world. Because if you understand the metaphysical reality of your world really well, and you understand how that cascades into the cultures and the morality and everything about, and the religions and everything about that structure. Because remember, like, a religion is more than just what it worships.
Mm-hmm.
A religion is more than its focal points. A religion is the practices that it worships, the hierarchy of the religion,
The moral compasses.
the moral compass that it espouses, the view that it has towards, the rest of society and so on. I mean, there's a religion called Gnosticism, that says that the creator of the world, the God of the Bible, the God of the Christian Bible, is the demiurge. It's the bad guy, and it killed God. You know, and it's an ancient religion, obviously. But that there's many interpretations on these
Mm-hmm.
things that have very different viewpoints.
And I think the biggest reason why it's so important to think about this stuff from a world building standpoint is, let's go back to that superhero thing.
Mm,
Think about how our world views suicide.
yeah,
There's literally, it's always tragic.
yeah,
There's nothing justifiable about it. There's no one that's left behind. It's like, yeah, but
yeah,
um whereas in a world where that's the only way to become a superhero, it's still gonna be tragic. There's no doubt about that. Somebody kills themselves and it's horrible. But there are going to be people, especially when you don't know the person, you realize, yeah, but they were trying.
mm,
They were going for it. I wish I was that brave. I
mm,
just can't do that. I'm not brave enough. So there would be a different attitude toward it. Not with everybody, but there would still be an underlying change in how people view that versus how we view it. It would be
yes,
very, because there's no benefit for, as far as this world. You can believe in another world and maybe there's a benefit, maybe there's a
I have an
negative.
argument. I have an argument against that, but that is because I believe in, like, if you reach the point of your life where you are in pain, I think that you should absolutely have the right to end it.
Right.
Um, I very strongly believe in that. But that, like, in my mind, that is not the equivalent of
Right. And that's not where I was
of
going with
yeah,
this.
yeah.
I was
I
talking about
know
like
that's not.
a healthy 20
That's
year
why I
old.
didn't, like, go ballistic with it. I was just like,
Right.
there is this little case on the side
Right. But
here.
that's literally not even talking about that in
Yeah,
either of those worlds. I'm
yeah,
talking about the healthy 22-year-old that's just like, I'm going to be Superman. Oh,
yeah,
wait, I'm dead. I'm just saying that you can't deny that there wouldn't be some type of societal difference in how
yeah.
they viewed that suicide versus how we view that
Mm,
suicide. And that all comes from, the metaphysics. In other words, the, the theoretical view of the world that we live in and how that world shapes us.
yeah,
And so, yeah, this is exactly what, and we talk about this. We've never talked about it from this, this specific point of metaphysics, but
mm.
we've definitely gone down this, at
No, I
least
know.
ancillary. But it's just a really good way to look at it very specifically, as opposed
Mm.
to, in a more roundabout way.
And it is like it's very it's so I watch a lot of philosophy, and I read a lot of philosophy because, I'm interested in how people think and so on, and it's very interesting to me. And I was watching a debate, between a Christian and an atheist about whether you can ground morals in metaphysics without a God, right? So this is a very specific topic. It's not about whether God exists or not. It's not about whether a specific God exists or not. None of that. It's about whether you can at all ground morality without a God in the metaphysical rather than in society needs to live this way in order to remain physically viable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a very esoteric debate.
Yes.
But it was very interesting to me because the atheist brought up that Plato had this concept of the good, which was without divinity. And it
Mm-hmm.
was a metaphysical concept that had no sentience in Plato's opinion, but that clearly all people knew what was good and what was evil. So Plato argued for a thing beyond the gods that, obviously he was Greek, so Greek gods, beyond the gods that was good and that people knew about. And this is the ultimate good that we all strive to be. So, um, so it is it's not like I don't personally believe that there is a good, but that's because I am like I'm I'm so physically atheist that I don't think we have souls. I don't think any like but
Right.
I'm very much in the minority. Like I'm not the general run of the person who's agnostic or atheist or whatever will generally go, yeah, there's something, but not, um
But there's so many interesting thought experiments like this. Like me and a religious friend got into a discussion, and because I'm not atheist, but I'm not agnostic, and I'm not religious. I'm kind of I'm wishy-washy. That's why I love to say that my religion is I'm a last Tuesdayist, that I believe the world was created last Tuesday, which is a great thought experiment because there's literally no way to prove it's not. There's no way to prove that the world wasn't created last Tuesday, and that's why it's an Occam's razor kind of thing. But we got into this discussion,
unfalsifiable.
and
It's like all metaphysics, unfalsifiable.
right. Well, we got into this discussion where he was like, well, think about it like this. And this is an actual thought experiment. I can't remember what it was called, but he was like, what if there, there's two universes, this.
Mm.
And in one universe, that God is real, 100% absolutely factually real. And in one of the universes, 100% he's not. He's 100% not real. But you don't know which universe you live in. How would you live? Would you live as if you were in the universe that God was real or not? And I said, that's great, except for there's one difference. You would still know that he's real. Like, you don't know if he's real in your universe, but you do know for 100% that he's real. So that changes how you would. It's sort of like my thing about the devil. If the devil came to me and said, I'll make a deal, with you
Yeah.
to give you everything you wanted, I'd be like, yeah, no, absolutely not now. Matter of fact, I'm going to give away everything that I own and become the most pious person on the planet. It still
So
takes that away. It takes that doubt away.
so that argument that you've just said is basically a very complicated way of dude's way, Pascal's wager. All right.
Oh,
Now
I think that's
Pascal's
actually what it was called. I think that's what it's called.
it's Pascal's wager.
Yeah.
Okay. So the problem with Pascal's wager is, okay, I hear you. You're saying I should live like this on the off chance that I'm wrong because otherwise I go to hell. What if
Right.
you get there and Allah is right? What if you
Mm-hmm.
get there and Brahma is right? What if you get there and Buddha is right? What if you get there and which one?
Right.
Which one of the 10,000 religions, my friend?
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I don't remember the joke. It's been too long, but there's a joke where basically during it, you walk down a hallway after you get to heaven and you're like, wait a minute, who are those guys? I'm like, oh, those are the Protestants and those are
Mm.
the, Muslims and those are the
Yeah.
whatever. But you're in this room down here with the, whatever, the Catholics, the Baptists, whatever. I don't remember the joke. I don't remember what the punchline was or anything like that. I just remember that during the joke, basically everyone was in heaven. It's
Yeah.
just that you just had different rooms and you weren't allowed to be in the other people's rooms.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean the thing is like it, there's Pascal's wager just falls down prima facie without even further investigation. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. That's a stupid debating term, and I will not engage in this debate. But but it's not a valid, um, you know, for
Well, like I
me.
said, my problem with it was, and this is what I told him. I'm like,
Mm,
I can't debate that because either because you're still saying that now I know for a fact that God is real.
Yeah.
Like, and if I know for a fact that God is real, whether he's real in my universe or not is beside the point. If he is real and everything is that way, then I would 100, if I knew this as fact, not as
Yeah.
faith, but as fact, then I would behave in a different way. You know, an interesting debate that's been happening in the peanut gallery is they're still on kind of the superhero thing.
Mm.
And they're like, you know, somebody said, but if that did create superheroes, you know, almost dying, there would be people that maybe not, and I'm paraphrasing everything, but maybe not actively try to commit suicide to see if they can unlock it. But people might be more willing to put themselves in harm's way to help someone else because it's not guaranteed death. It's maybe death, but there's a possibility of superhuman, you know, abilities popping up. And that's kind of interesting because then, you know, I can jump in front of this train and save this little girl, and I'm 100% going to die. Or I can jump in front of this girl or jump in front of this train and save this girl, and 95% chance going to die. But 5%, I'm going to become Superman. Like that, that changes the game. That changes your thinking. It changes how society thinks about it. It's going to change everything. And this is why, like when we talk about world building, we always talk about extrapolate. You know, magic is going to affect technology and magic becomes technology. So it's going to affect communication and medical and food transportation and production and, war and the whole 9 yards. So you have to think about that. You have to extrapolate that out throughout your entire world building. It's the same thing. What we're doing here is we're just talking about, think about the mental changes that this stuff is going to do to people and how they see the world.
Also think about if you want to write an actual good versus evil story. Are you grounding this in a metaphysical reality? Do you have a concept of the good like Plato does? Is that true in your world? There is a metaphysical reality to ground that morality in, whether that is a religion or not. And then you can populate gods into that, gods who draw from this good, gods who draw from the evil. And what does that mean? Like, think about Star Wars, right? The metaphysical reality of Star Wars is that there is two sides to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There is the side you can access by being disciplined and unemotional, all right, through order and so on. And this side you can access through being emotional, through getting angry and drawing on your emotions. That is a metaphysical reality that has an impact on these two religions and how they approach the world. And it
And
carries through.
the funny thing is if you actually, because I'm not a huge fan of Star Wars. It's not that I hate it. I just it the older I grow and the more I look at storytelling, the less I'm impressed with it. Because like here's another great example. If you actually follow that through, there's no reason why the Jedis can't be 100% evil, because they would be completely emotionless. So if they killed children, but it was for this logical thing, then who cares? Whereas the dark side could actually be all good, because why can't they pull off of the
Love.
raw emotion of love or compassion or all of those things? So you could go either way with that.
There is, well, I don't know. I think
Technically you could have four.
I think they've declared all of the books non-canon, but there were books that explored that aspect of the Force and kind of enriched that metaphysical aspect. Looking into, can Sith draw from love, and
because,
so
what popped in my head was the Dungeons and Dragons lawful evil. A lawful evil alignment isn't necessarily evil because they follow all the rules. They just are very inner looking. They're very narcissistic, and they're out for themselves. But it doesn't mean that they can't, if being altruistic and, being a I can never say that word. The person who gives away stuff to poor people, philanthropist. That's the word I'm looking for. there's no reason why they can't do that if it also served a very selfish something to them. So they could still benefit society and be lawful evil, because that is what lawful evil kind of is. It just means that you can use the law to really screw someone over. And that's just kind of the way it is. So yeah, all of these things are things that I do believe you should think about within your societies, and why your societies are the way they are. And it will help you. The big thing, and you said it at the beginning, but I want to kind of go back to it just to make sure that this is really hammered on. What this does is it allows you to be able to know what these people are going to do. And so it isn't you making a decision on what you would do in that situation. It's them making a decision based off of their views of the world and their views of, everything around them, so that they make a decision that feels to the audience authentic to that character.
Yeah. I want to answer somebody in the I completely agree with what you said. By the way, it is very important because it builds out your whole culture.
Yeah.
And I just briefly want to answer somebody in the peanut gallery who said that Star Wars has an implied consistency. In the movies, yes, but not in all of the canon books that have been made non-canon after Disney's takeover. So there was a book called Legacy of the Force Betrayal, where there was a Sith described called Darth Victivis, who basically just existed as a Sith, drew on the dark side of the Force through its emotions, and just lived. And he died of old age, surrounded by family and friends. He was a happy Sith. So, yes, the movies didn't explore that, but
Now you make me want to write a Star Wars book, and have the Sith character be just like some 1960s hippie, free love, smoking weed. Like, oh, it's all good, dude. Like,
that's what I'm saying. And those books, for those of you who'll say they weren't approved, whatever, those books were part of the Star Wars. They were part of Star Wars before Disney.
yeah.
They were approved by Lucasfilm Star Wars IP
Mm-hmm.
holders. So they all
Yeah.
had to be. The books had to be approved. They were official canon.
Yep. Yep. They all went through a centralized hub. I'm friends with Timothy Zahn and Mike Stackpole, and Aaron Alston was one of my mentors before he passed away. So I'm pretty versed in how things went prior to
Mm.
the Disney thing. I have no idea um, about now,
Yeah, yeah.
but
I don't know if there even are Star Wars books at the moment. I've kind of
I don't
um,
know.
fallen off the bandwagon. But there was a time when I consumed all the Star Wars books, like the whole Yuzan Vong War, everything.
I still, there's probably 5 sci-fi books that I've read. One of them is a Star Wars book. Stackpole did give me a first edition of I Jedi,
Mm.
because he still had like 10 or 12 of them at his house. And I was over at his place one time and he was like, here. So I do have a first edition of that. And I did read it. I actually did read it. But I'm just not, I don't know. I still, when it
Yeah,
comes to reading, I want to read fantasy.
yeah, 100%. And
It's
I
just
mean,
my
like
bag.
I say, this was just a small rabbit hole. But the point is that metaphysical reality matters because it matters to the people who use it, to the way that it permeates the galaxy.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, Tolkien's metaphysical reality matters. Why did
Yeah.
Gandalf survive his fight against the Balrog? Because I'm going to mispronounce this name. Do not kill me, Tolkien fans. I know I'm mispronouncing it. Elevutar intervened and brought him back. That is why he survived, right? The metaphysical reality stepped in and saved him. And that means that
Yeah.
it is a reality in that world. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and like I said, just to continue to put a pin in this, it's important to you as a story creator because it'll force you to look at things differently than what you would normally do. So, when we look at it from the extrapolation standpoint, you're going to look at it in one way. But when you look at it from this metaphysical way, now that's going to permeate to everybody. And now when you have that, that woman walking down the street that your character bumps into that's from the society, and you're never going to flesh her out in any way, shape, or form. If you understand the metaphysics of the society, then you are more apt to have that character act in a way that is consistent with that character and not with what you would have done if you were in that position. And the reason why I'm harping on this is so many writers I read, especially today, I read a lot of books where every single character feels the same. And I don't know the writer, but I guarantee you they all feel like the writer. The evil people feel like the writer, the good people feel like the writer, the men, the women, the children, the monsters, like everybody feels like they're the same, they have the same moral compass, the same moral code. The evil people are doing evil on that moral compass, the evil side of that moral compass, and the good are doing it, on that, but everybody's exactly the same. And you know, even if they're varied on that shades of gray scale of good versus evil, they still kind of react in the same way. And it's because the writer is just writing everybody as themselves. And that just doesn't lend to a story where it feels like you're in a living, breathing world, because that's not, I mean, that's the reason why us humans fight each other constantly over the dumbest stuff, because we are all very, very different. I mean, even with as close as me and you are on almost everything, we still have plenty of things that we butt heads on, and it's fine. And I would hate it if we were exactly the same. I don't think that makes for a good friendship. It doesn't make for a good relationship. It doesn't make for, I mean, that's a boring, I would hate for everybody to be little clones of me. It would be awful. But that's what happens when the writer doesn't really take the time to understand that they are not the story. They are not the world. They are not the culture. They are not every single living, breathing person in it. That you want to have that diversity. You want to have that difference of opinions and different ways of thinking of things and everything like that, because it would just make your world feel more real to the audience. And so that now they can have an easier time of suspending disbelief. They can fall deeper into your story. They can become more immersed. They can become more connected, and then ultimately more impacted by the journey that they took with you.
It will also help you as a world builder to really throw yourself into that culture. If you go like, okay, this is, even if their metaphysics isn't real, let's say their world's got a plethora of metaphysical thinking, there isn't actually a real, omnipotent kind of good power and omnipotent evil power. Let's say that isn't actually real, right? But there's a place that thinks it does. Okay? Putting yourself in that metaphysical mindset, like for them, this is real. Understanding what they argue is the metaphysical proof of what they are saying will help you to write them in a real way. Like if you were to write Romans or Greeks or whatever, they believed in their gods. They had metaphysical arguments about their gods. Mount Olympus wasn't just a mountain in Greece, it was a metaphorical mountain in their arguments, in their worldview. And understanding that kind of approach, understanding the metaphysics of the culture, will help you write the culture in a real way.
Yeah. And I know this is probably over 20 years ago, but that was the thing that blew me away about HBO's Rome. It
Mm.
was the first series that dealt with Rome that allowed the characters to truly believe in the gods. None of the others, like even like what was the one with the flying horse and the talking mechanical owl and the Medusa and from the 80s. Was it Perseus? I don't remember. It wasn't Perseus.
Yoda? Hercules?
No, it's one of the big famous ones. I don't know why I can't pull it up in my head. But anyway, none of the, and that had real gods in it. Like they were actually like
Attack of
one
the
of them.
Titans? says the
Yes,
peanut
Clash
butter.
of the Titans. It was the Clash of the Titans, the first one, the original one.
Yeah.
Um, so even that one, even though with the gods being real, it didn't feel like the characters necessarily followed that religion or whatever.
Yeah.
And in HBO's Rome, like the characters felt like they truly worshiped these gods. They did the rituals and they did them in a way that felt convincing. They had little altars all throughout their houses. It's just like you walk into a Catholic's, a devout Catholic's home. There's crosses and Bibles and Jesus and all this stuff. You don't usually get that paraphernalia in a lot of these until, like I said, when Rome came out, it was the first one that I was like, wow, it feels like these people believe in these gods. Like they are worshiping these gods. And I love that. It was such a great, refreshing thing. Because Hollywood has missed that for a long time. And so, and yeah, in a book, we have a lot more time to go into these things or stuff like that. But still, it adds something to the story that I just don't think can be replicated anywhere else if you don't do it.
Yeah. So, so that is my pitch for think about the metaphysical reality of your world. Understand what people think metaphysically is behind their religion. Understand what's real, what's really behind their religion, because it's your world. You can make it anything. You
Mm-hmm.
are not bound by our world, you know. You are not bound by this game dev world that has been foisted on us poor pixels. You can make up any world. So make sure you understand that the actual metaphysical reality of your world, and then understand what people think about that reality. You
And
know,
then run those characters as if they truly believe this stuff.
yes,
It doesn't matter
because
that
they
you don't
do.
believe it.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they do.
yeah. Like you might not believe what I believe. I'm pretty sure you don't actually, you know, but and that's fine. Like, but we believe these things and
Yeah,
we believe, and there are reasons why we believe them. I have arguments for why I'm an atheist, but it doesn't mean that those arguments are objectively true because it's an unfalsifiable point of view.
right. And just again, because I think this is a great example of this, you have your beliefs, I have my beliefs, the listener has their beliefs. You actually make decisions in your life because of your belief structure. I make decisions in my life because of my belief structure. If you were running me
Mm,
and you told the audience that this is my belief structure, but then I made decisions based off of your belief structure, it just doesn't feel as authentic. It doesn't feel as real. It doesn't feel like what we're trying to do, which is this escapism to this new world where these people can fall in and go, oh my goodness, every single person, like I feel like I'm in an actual world.
yeah,
And so I think that's one of the things that one of the reasons why mine and your reviews have that a lot, where it's always like the world feels so real to me. The people in it feel so real to me. And it's because we allow them to make their own decisions based off of their belief structure and their, you know, moral compass and their ideology and their whatever. And I don't care what I believe. I don't care if I think what they think is stupid, because when I'm running them, I think what I think is stupid because I'm no
yeah.
longer me, I'm them. And so I'm the stupid one and they're the smart one. And so you just run them the way that they would do it. And by focusing on this metaphysical layer, that's a really, really awesome way to look at something, to really hone in on it. Because again, it's like if you don't schedule something, it probably won't happen. It's the same thing with world building and story creation, all that. If you don't hone in on it and think about it individually, then it's going to be missing from your story.
And I think that that's probably a good place on which to end this episode. And we will see you soon for another one.
Bye. If you are ready to take your writing to the next level and work with a group of highly motivated, dedicated writers who are all working to not only improve their writing, but improve your writing, plus you get to work with me on a weekly basis, then I'll encourage you to check out writersroom.us. This is a website that I have created that I really wish I had 30 years ago. It's everything a writer needs to become a better writer. Not only do we do weekly critique sessions, both from other members as well as me, we have daily writing sessions, I do monthly classes, Q&As, we have activities, I do all sorts of learning exercises, such as I do a quarterly writing prompt contest, and just tons and tons and tons of things. So if you're ready to get serious about your writing and you want to actually finish that novel and have a chance of it being published, then I encourage you to head on over to the writer's room and join me there. And as a special promotion for listeners of Releasing Your Inner Dragon, I'll go one step more. If you would like to get 50% off for 3 months, reach out to me. There's a million ways you can do that. You can do it through starvingwriterstudio.com, drakeu.com, any of my social medias such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever. Reach out to me, say that you would like to check out the Writer's Room for 50% off, and I will send you a link that will allow you to do just that. So hopefully you're ready to start getting serious about writing, and I'll see you in the Writer's Room.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Marie Mullaney, your co-host on this literary adventure. Our goal is to provide you with valuable insights and discussions on writing. If you believe in our mission, please like and subscribe our podcast. Sharing our episodes with your community not only helps us grow, but also contributes to a richer, more diverse conversation about storytelling. We appreciate your support. For a deeper understanding of the topics we've discussed, head over to Just in Time Worlds on YouTube. It is a treasure trove where fantasy meets history and science. Every Tuesday, you'll find new videos that delve into the intricacies of world building, drawing from our rich real-world history. Whether you're a writer, a role player, or just a fantasy enthusiast, Just in Time Worlds offers unique insights that will enrich your perspective. Check it out and join the journey of crafting incredible worlds.